A Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas, Wednesday morning. Las Vegas police released this video of the blast, which killed the driver and injured several others. They also released footage that showed the vehicle's interior afterward, which they said showed gas and camp fuel canisters, as well as large firework mortars. Tesla CEO Elon Musk said the blast was unrelated to the Cybertruck itself, saying in a post on X, quote, "All vehicle telemetry was positive at the time of the explosion." FBI Special Agent Jeremy Schwartz told reporters on Wednesday that it was not yet clear whether the blast was an act of terrorism.
I know everybody's interested in that word and trying to see if we can say, hey, this is a terrorist attack. That is our goal, and that's what we're trying to do.
He added the vehicle had been rented in Colorado and that the FBI had identified the driver, but was not yet ready to publicly name them. The Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas is part of the Trump Organization, the company of President-elect Donald Trump, who will return to the White House later this month. Musk was a key backer of Trump in his 2024 presidential campaign and is also an advisor to the incoming president. The explosion occurred just hours after a man drove a truck into crowds of New Year's Day revelers in New Orleans, killing 15. The FBI said an ISIS flag was attached to a staff protruding from the trailer hitch, and that a potential explosive device was found in the rented vehicle. Las Vegas police said both that vehicle and the Cybertruck had been rented through car-sharing service Turo. President Joe Biden on Monday said law enforcement was still investigating whether the Las Vegas explosion and the New Orleans attack were linked.
I just heard a boom.
Oh my God. I heard that boom too, but I didn't know it was actually outside. I thought it was a person in the hallway.
I was teased because of my teeth. I didn't like the person looking at me in the mirror.
I hope not another one goes off.
That's a lot of smoke. It looks like there might be some blackness on the sign.
Like a fire, maybe?
Here's what we know so far. The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack. Possible explosives were found in the vehicle as well, and more explosives were found nearby. The situation is very fluid, and the investigation has a preliminary stage. Additionally, we're tracking the explosion of a Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Law enforcement and the intelligence community are investigating this as well, including whether there's any possible connection with the attack in New Orleans.
As of right now, our number one goal is to ensure that we have the proper identification of the subject involved in this incident. Following that, our second objective is to determine whether this was an act of terrorism or not. I know everybody's interested in that word and trying to see if we can say, hey, this is a terrorist attack. That is our goal, and that's what we're trying to do. We believe this is an isolated incident. We do not believe that there's a bunch of folks out there supporting this or helping this, and we don't believe that there's any other danger to the community right now.
92 12, we got a white Ford. I need EMS to Canal and Bourbon now. Canal and Bourbon now, possible 20F.
I need somebody to speak to dispatch. What's going on in Canal and Bourbon? I got it. What's going on in Canal and Bourbon? What's going on in Canal and Bourbon? Somebody please advise dispatch. What's going on in Canal and Bourbon?
You're messing with that Bourbon and Iberville. Y'all were trying to get a rehab. Dozens of people that got hit by this car.
We have a medical pack. Bring a medical pack. I got at least maybe 12 to 15 people hit by this vehicle. I'm in the 200 block of Bourbon. 880 headquarters. Bourbon Street is shut down from the 100 to at least the 500 block of Bourbon. All officers on Bourbon Street, stop! Headquarters, we need some EMFs in here. Do we have them en route? 9530, we need EMF in here on the code 3.
Clear all my units that are code 1. Clear everyone, start them to that location. Clear anyone on that 30 if possible.
Bourbon and Iberville, I have at least 6 casualties. I have an officer doing chest compressions on one. I have another white male that's got agonal breathing in the 200 block. Multiple casualties that may be going 10-7.
Just heard this squeal and like the rev of an engine, and then this huge loud impact, and then the people screaming and debris, just metal, the sound of crunching metal and bodies. You just don't,
She asked me why somebody would
Yeah,
I just don't understand why somebody would do
I don't understand why somebody would do that.
A plea deal that could let the alleged mastermind of the 9/11 terrorist attacks avoid the death penalty was upheld by a U.S. military appeals court. Earlier this year, 3 men held for decades without trial at the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center reached an agreement with Pentagon prosecutors to plead guilty and possibly avoid the death penalty. The prisoners include Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He is accused of leading the plot to fly hijacked commercial passenger aircraft into the World Trade Center in New York City and into the Pentagon on September 11, 2001. The 9/11 attacks, as they are known, killed nearly 3,000 people and propelled the U.S. into a 2-decade war in Afghanistan. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in August rescinded the plea deals. The Pentagon previously said Austin was surprised by the plea deals and that the secretary was not consulted because that process is independent. But in November, a U.S. military judge ruled that Austin acted too late on revoking the plea deals and that they were still valid. The order late on Monday by the U.S. Military Appeals Court upheld that ruling. The Pentagon did not respond to a request for comment. Mohammed, also known as KSM, is the most widely known inmate at Guantanamo Bay. The prison was set up in 2002 by then U.S. President George W. Bush to detain foreign militant suspects following the September 11th attacks. Human rights experts, including at the United Nations, have condemned torture at Guantanamo Bay and elsewhere during the so-called War on Terror and demanded an apology from Washington. Former President Barack Obama acknowledged in 2014 that the U.S. had engaged in torture and said it was, quote, contrary to our values.
Russian gas supplies to Europe via Ukraine came to an end on New Year's Day. It brings down the curtain on Moscow's long period of dominance of supply in the European gas market. Russia's oldest gas export route to Europe is a pipeline dating back to the Soviet days. The deal expired after Ukraine's Naftogaz refused to renew its latest 5-year transit deal with Russia's Gazprom. Ukraine's energy minister German Galushenko called this a, quote, historic event. Russia is losing its markets. It will suffer financial losses, he said in a statement. Despite the war between the two countries, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy had said in December that Kyiv might consider allowing the transit of Russian gas. But it was on the condition that payments to Moscow be withheld until the fighting ends. Russian President Vladimir Putin, a week later, said there was no time left to sign a new deal. Russia and the Soviet Union spent half a century building up a major share of the European gas market, which at its peak stood at around 35%. But the war in Ukraine has all but destroyed that business for Gazprom, and Russia now holds about 8% of the market. Most Russian gas routes to Europe are shut, including Yamal Europe via Belarus and Nord Stream under the Baltic that was blown up in 2022. EU gas prices rallied the same year to record highs after the loss of Russian supplies. But experts say a repeat of that rally is unlikely, given the now modest volumes involved and the small number of customers impacted. The Ukrainian route serves Austria and Slovakia, and both have arranged for alternative supplies. Ukraine is giving up some $800 million a year in fees from Russia, while Gazprom will lose close to $5 billion in gas sales to Europe via Ukraine. The system of the Republic of Korea is facing a crisis because of the illegal impeachment, so I came here with my daughter. Even if it's just small support, I came here to protect the country.
훼손의 역사는 반복될 수밖에 없습니다. 성소수자라는 이유로 억압당해온 역사를
We are here in front of the president's official residence, where the ringleader of the insurrection, Yoon Suk-yeol, is staying. We, the Jimbo Party, think that we cannot have new hope for the new year of 2025 without arresting the leader of the insurrection.
South Korea stepped up its investigation into its deadliest ever air disaster on Wednesday. The Transport Ministry reported that investigators have extracted data from Jeju Air Flight 7C2216's cockpit voice recorder and are converting it to an audio file. It's a crucial step for understanding the moments leading up to a crash that left 179 people dead. The plane's black box will meanwhile be handed over to the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board for further analysis. Investigators are exploring potential causes such as bird strikes, landing gear failures, or issues with control systems. They will also examine the pilot's apparent rush to land immediately after declaring an emergency. Air safety experts are also questioning if the airport embankment, designed to support navigation equipment, was positioned too close to the runway's end. A team of U.S. officials, including representatives from the NTSB, Federal Aviation Administration, and Boeing, arrived on Tuesday to conduct a visual investigation of the wreckage. Also on Wednesday, South Korea's acting president, Choi Sung-mok, said at an intra-agency meeting, authorities have formally identified all victims of the air crash. Choi also said funeral preparations are underway as grieving families prepare to bid farewell to their loved ones. South Korea has declared a national mourning period until this Saturday, January 4th.
Скъпи български и румънски граждани,
A power grid collapse left nearly all of Puerto Rico without electricity on New Year's Eve. A statement from power distribution company Luma Energy said roughly 87% of customers were without power as of 1 p.m. on Tuesday. Luma added that it will likely take 24 to 48 hours to turn the lights back on, and said the cause of the outage is under investigation. Puerto Rico has long dealt with chronic power outages, and protesters have called for the government to cancel its contract with Luma. In a post on social media, Puerto Rico Governor Pedro Pierluisi urged Luma and power generator Hanera to, quote, speed up bringing generator units back online. Jennifer Gonzalez, who takes office as the new governor of Puerto Rico on Thursday, said that she is forming an energy task force to address the frequent blackouts.
To all those who have tragically lost their lives in unforeseen accidents, we offer our deepest condolences to ensure that our society can collectively express this mourning for such large-scale tragedies. A memorial altar has been set up.
예, 며칠 전에 이렇게 A few days ago, there was that airplane crash, and it was so devastating and heartbreaking. For about 2 days, I couldn't help but feel sorrowful. The news kept reporting it, and it was just so sad. So this morning, I heard that a memorial altar was being set up at the square, so I stopped by on my way to work.
A real estate investment trust launched by Argentine soccer star Lionel Messi has made its Spanish market debut. At 57.4 euros per share, it has a market capitalisation of 223 million euros, or just over $232 million. Messi, the Inter Miami player and former FC Barcelona forward, is named as chairman of Edificio Rostower Sachimi's board. That's according to documents published by the Portfolio Stock Exchange, a small European alternative market that is supervised by the Bank of Spain. The company owns 7 hotels in Spain and Andorra, as well as 3 office spaces and 5 apartments in Spain. It also has property in London and Paris. Founded in 2013, the company posted a reported loss of 1.7 million euros in 2023. Edificio Rostower did not immediately respond to a request for comment on its stock market debut. Most of the company's investments are in the Spanish region of Catalonia. Messi moved there in 2000 when he was 13 years old to join FC Barcelona's youth teams. The 8 times Ballon d'Or winner has long said he plans to return to live in Barcelona with his wife and 3 children after he retires from soccer.
These empty desks in a South Korean office sit next to a calendar marking days off after Christmas. The 5 female colleagues who worked here had flown to Bangkok to celebrate their promotions. But their holiday ended tragically when their return Jeju air flight crashed on Sunday at the Muan International Airport. Still in shock at the loss of their co-workers and friends, colleagues wearing black ribbons cried at their desks. White chrysanthemums were placed on the desk in mourning. At the Public Education Office, officials set up an altar where colleagues and neighbours can come to pay their condolences. Bowing in tears, Lee Kui-sun, a school chef, vividly remembered her last moment of holding hands with one of the victims.
I still can't believe it's real until now. She was promoted recently and all of a sudden this happened. I still can't believe it. I miss her smile.
Lee Dae-kun, who worked in the same department as another victim, said they had been looking forward to their long-awaited trip.
Whenever one sees flowers on that empty desk, sadness rushes in.
At the request of colleagues who asked for privacy, Reuters is not naming the victims. There were among 179 people killed in South Korea's deadliest air disaster.
Dear Ukrainians, may 2025 be our year, the year of Ukraine. We know that peace will not be given to us as a gift, but we will do everything to stop Russia and end the war. This is what each of us wishes for. Ukraine is not alone. We have our friends with us. Since the first minutes of this war, America has stood with Ukraine. I believe that America will also stand with Ukraine in the first minutes of peace. I have no doubt that the new American president wants and will be able to bring peace and end Putin's aggression. He understands that the former is impossible without the latter, because this is not a street brawl where the two sides need to be pacified. This is full-scale aggression by a deranged state against a civilized one. And I believe that, together with the United States, we are capable of the strength to force Russia into a just peace.
The U.S. Treasury Department said Chinese state-sponsored hackers broke into its systems in early December, according to a letter to lawmakers obtained by Reuters. The Treasury called the breach a major incident, saying department workstations were remotely accessed and documents were stolen. It said the hackers compromised third-party cybersecurity service provider Beyond Trust, gaining access to a key used by the vendor, and were able to retrieve unclassified documents. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning on Tuesday called the claims groundless and lacking evidence. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington also rejected any responsibility for the hack. The Treasury Department said it was alerted to the breach by Beyond Trust on December 8th, and that it was working with the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, as well as the FBI, to assess the breach's impact. Treasury officials did not immediately respond to an email seeking further details about the hack.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
Jimmy Carter received an outpouring of tributes and remembrances following his death at the age of 100.
You set the example for all of us.
I am so in awe of him.
And I'm sure President Carter, he's in heaven now with his wife.
He served just one term in the White House after being sworn in at the age of 52. But it was the decades after his presidency that even he acknowledged were his most successful, saying, quote, "I can't deny I'm a better ex-president than I was a president." After leaving office in 1981, Carter earned a reputation as a committed humanitarian. He and his wife Rosalind founded the Carter Center in 1982 to alleviate human suffering. Executive Director of the George Washington Presidential Library, Lindsay Travinsky, explains.
The Carter Center was really the first to raise funds and support to try and eradicate disease, to try and help with human rights, try and help protect voting rights, to try and help protect the sanctity of elections around the globe.
Carter's nonprofit helped lead global efforts to eradicate guinea worm disease, a debilitating parasitic disease transmitted through contaminated water, by providing health education in Africa and helping maintain political will.
In terms of the disease around the world, they actually helped eradicate a couple of diseases, guinea worm, and then I think it's also called river blindness. And so the Carters really funneled funds and attention to help eradicating a couple of those diseases. And in doing so, they have saved the lives of millions of people, which is just a remarkable feat.
There were an estimated 3.5 million cases of the disease in 1986. In 2023, only 14 cases were reported. Carter, who left office profoundly unpopular, gained global acclaim as a voice for the disenfranchised.
Prior to him, most former presidents went home and were pretty quiet because that was the expectation. Now, that didn't always rub everyone the right way. Sometimes he was involved in foreign policy, or he would speak out about foreign policy in a way that some of his successors felt was inappropriate.
But Travinsky says his humanitarian work was hard to criticize. Carter won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for his efforts to promote human rights and resolve conflicts around the world, from Ethiopia and Eritrea to Bosnia and Haiti. His Carter Center in Atlanta also sent international election monitoring delegations to polls worldwide. Here's Carter in Ethiopia in 1993.
I don't see the separability of peace and democracy and human rights and the alleviation of human suffering and in the future sustained development. I see these as an integral part of the life of a human being or the life of a nation.
For decades, the Carters worked with Habitat for Humanity, which helped build homes for people in need.
And so when they went to build a house for Habitat for Humanity, perhaps they weren't the fastest worker, maybe they weren't able to hammer as many nails as the person next to them, but by being there, they were bringing awareness to the cause and to the effort. And so in doing so, they were able to raise enormous amounts of money and public awareness of this effort.
Carter wrote more than 24 books, ranging from a presidential memoir to a children's book and poetry, as well as works about religious faith and diplomacy.
His decency, his goodness of spirit, his long-lasting marriage, his commitment to his faith and acting that faith out through deeds, not just words. Those are things, and I should say also his far-reaching vision about the importance of environmental protections. Those are things that almost made him more cool in the 2020s than they did in the 1970s.
Some of the things that we have enjoyed with Jimmy is that he was a politician and he was involved in that, but more than that with us, he was just a friend and a neighbor. And so he would come down here to my house. I would have a dinner, or I had a taco soup supper every night, every Christmas. And that's the last picture I have. And he was the last time he came to the family reunion 2 years ago, I guess. And that's my daughter and my granddaughter. That's me. Thank you, Lord, for letting him live 100 years and do all the things that he wanted to do. And I think he accomplished so much that who could be sad over anybody who had done what that man had done from a little town in Plains, Georgia, raised on a peanut farm, and became the President of the United States.
It's a sad day. He was a great humanitarian. He set the example for all of us, and we're going to miss him.
I am so in awe of him. I'm in awe of his presidency because he was the one who fought for the environment, civil rights. But afterwards, his books that he wrote, especially on the Mideast, were tremendous. I get chills when I think about the Camp David Agreement.
I wasn't alive for him as a president. However, I love what he did after his presidency, his continued dedication to success for people, working with others. He did a lot for, his community and the world in general through building houses and a lot of other really great, noble acts. I think that that's what every leader should be.
A South Korean court approved the arrest of impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol Tuesday over his short-lived decision to impose martial law earlier this month. It's the first time an arrest warrant has been issued against a president of South Korea. It's the latest turn in what's become the key U.S. ally's deepest political crisis in decades. Investigators allege Yoon led an insurrection, one of the few charges for which a South Korean president does not have immunity. The arrest warrant was issued by the CIO, or South Korea's Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials, and was approved by a district court in Western Seoul. Yoon's lawyer, Yoon Gap-gun, spoke to media on Tuesday, arguing the warrant against his client is invalid.
I question whether the issuance of such an illegal warrant aligns with the principles of the rule of law. It is our position that this unlawful arrest warrant request is illegal and invalid. The declaration of martial law is a power granted to the president under the Constitution. The president exercised this authority legitimately as part of their duty to protect the constitutional order of the nation.
Yoon had already ignored summons for questioning 3 times since his martial law declaration. His supporters rallied outside his residence on Tuesday as they faced off with his critics, which included Jinbo Party lawmaker Chon Jun-dong.
Even regarding this arrest warrant, Yoon Suk-yeol, who is being accused of treason, claims that it is illegal and refuses to acknowledge it. Therefore, it's imperative today to ensure that this arrest warrant is executed and that this individual accused of treason faces legal consequences.
In a statement, South Korea's Presidential Security Service said it will treat the arrest warrant according to due process. Previously, the service had blocked police attempts to raid the presidential office as part of an investigation. Meanwhile, Yoon's impeachment trial is underway at South Korea's Constitutional Court. The next hearing in that case is set for Friday. When Yoon declared martial law on December 3rd, he mentioned anti-state forces were among his political opponents. He revoked it hours later after lawmakers defied him. Prime Minister Han Duk-soo had taken over from Yoon as acting president, but he too was impeached on Friday.
Mexico has detained 3 suspects over the death of a Mexican migration agent near the US border, according to state security and migration officials. The slain agent was attacked at a checkpoint when he asked a number of foreign nationals for their identification documents, Mexican Migration Agency INM said. The checkpoint was just south of Ciudad Juarez, across the border from the city of El Paso in Texas. The incident marks a rare case of deadly violence against agents weeks before Donald Trump takes office. The US president-elect is expected to crack down on illegal immigration and try to restrict legal immigration when he returns to the White House. Hundreds of migrants waited in long lines outside an immigration office in southern Mexico on Monday. They hope to secure safe passage north and enter the US legally before Trump returns to power. Salvadoran migrant Jose Escobar.
Like every migrant, we are afraid. But well, he knows what he is going to do with all of us entering legally. We're doing it in the healthiest and most feasible way possible to avoid mistakes, such as entering illegally.
State investigators reported that the agent suffered a head injury and his body exhibited, quote, signs of violence. 2 Venezuelan men and a Colombian national were detained as suspects.
Ali al-Batran, less than 1 month old, fought for his life on Monday at a hospital in Gaza, where severe cold in the enclave's second winter of the war has added to the suffering of displaced Palestinians. His twin brother Gemma died of hypothermia in the family's makeshift tent at an encampment in central Gaza. Doctors say he's one of several Palestinians who have died of exposure and cold in recent days. Reuters spoke to his father, Yahya al-Batran.
It was 3 a.m. I woke up and asked my wife why she was up, and she said that she has been trying to wake up Gemma for an hour, but he is not waking up. And I ask about Ali, and she says he too is not waking up. I started tapping them like that and said, "Oh no." I held Gemma. He was white and freezing as snow. Go see him. Like ice, frozen. I carried him and rushed out.
His brother Ali was in the intensive care unit at the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. His doctor said he is in critical condition.
The Gaza Strip is gravely suffering as a result of the winter season. There are around 2 million people in Gaza living in worn-out tents.
The death of Gemma shows how severe the situation facing vulnerable families remains. Nora al-Batran is Gemma's mother.
Since I'm an adult, I may take this and endure it. But what did the young one do to deserve this? He cannot endure hunger. He cannot endure the cold nor this hopelessness. We call on anybody and everybody that can help us to please do and end this war.
According to Palestinian health officials, Israel's campaign against Hamas in Gaza has killed more than 45,500 Palestinians and turned the enclave into a wasteland of rubble and destroyed buildings. The war was triggered by a Hamas attack on southern Israel on October 7, 2023, in which 1,200 people were killed and 251 taken to Gaza as hostages, according to Israeli tallies. Due to the rain yesterday, water gathered over the worn-out tents and broke them, broke the wood, and the water went down on those asleep, and we got up at 3 a.m. to try and gather what is left of the tent. This is our situation.
An accident in Ethiopia killed 71 people on Sunday after a truck packed with passengers plunged into a river. Reuters arrived at the scene of the crash Monday and found people looking down at the accident site from a bridge. A local described what he saw.
It went straight to the river. Men and women. Nobody survived. Most of the bodies didn't even have complete body parts. It would have been better if all the corpses were intact. I was here at the time. We collected the bodies of men and women and loaded them onto a car.
A spokesperson for the Sidama regional government said local traffic police had reported the truck was overloaded. He said some of the passengers were returning from a wedding ceremony, that the road had many bends, and that the truck missed a bridge and fell into the river below. Deadly traffic accidents are common in Ethiopia. Driving standards there are poor, and many vehicles are badly maintained. In 2018, at least 38 people, mostly students, were killed when a bus plunged into a ravine in Ethiopia's mountainous north.
This was the moment Vasil Nisharet reunited with his wife and 5-year-old daughter on Monday, after Ukraine and Russia carried out a new prisoners of war exchange. I'm serving and will continue to serve our country, said the Ukrainian border guard who was captured by Russian troops at the Chernobyl nuclear power station. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy said 189 POWs were brought home, including soldiers, sergeants, and officers from different frontline areas. He said it also included 2 Ukrainian civilians who were captured by Russian troops at the southern port of Mariupol in 2022. Zelensky also thanked the United Arab Emirates and other partners for facilitating the swap. Meanwhile, Russian soldiers were seen getting on a bus and speaking with Russia's Human Rights Commissioner, Tatiana Moskalkova, in a video posted on her Telegram channel. The Russian Defense Ministry said 150 Russian servicemen were returning home. There was no immediate explanation for why more Ukrainians were listed as released than Russians. Moscow added that Russian captives had been released on Belarusian territory and would be transferred to Russia.